Hey there, humanoids. It's the Masked Man here, David Shoemaker. It's officially WrestleMania season, and we've got you covered here on the Ringer Wrestling Show.
Kaz here. Every Monday and Thursday, hang out with me and my guy Shoes on the Masked Man Show.
And Ben Cruz here. Come kick it with me, Cal, and Brian on Tuesdays for Ringer Wrestling Worldwide, where we hit on the most interesting headlines and even react to some of Masked Man's and even your hottest takes.
Don't tap out, tap in to the Ringer Wrestling Show feed now on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
Worldwide.
Welcome to the Ringer NFL Draft Show. My name is Danny Heifetz, and I'm joined by Danny Kelly and Craig Horlbeck, and we are doing a mailbag today. We were under 1 month from the NFL Draft, so we're going to go through a bunch of questions. People emailed in, posted on Blue Sky, because I'm not going to use the word that DK does for Blue Sky. Shout out to everyone who's emailed us. Oh my, why? We don't have to do that, man. It's just,
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We really do.
All right. It's early in the morning. Thank you to DK and Craig for accommodating me. So I am over-energized. Craig's under-energized. DK, just general dad nihilism. I don't know if he sleeps anymore anyway. So we're going to go through all these emails. First, I have to start with the league meetings. All the owners have a meeting in West Palm Beach or whatever in Florida, and then the GMs and coaches go down, and the coaches take their weird little photo, and the GMs do the rules and everything and all this stuff. They're talking about banning the tush push. Craig, is this the first rule change that makes you feel like an old head instead of a young head? I feel like every time there's a sport rule, I'm like, yeah, down with the olds. And this is the first one where I'm like, these freaking kids ruining the sport.
It aligns nicely with us turning 30, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That we're like, man, these kids don't know what we used to go through. It's a good time to talk about this too, because we're going to get into the torpedo bat later in the episode.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the thing that bothers me the most about this, so this is basically the Packers doing, it's all these NFC teams are jealous, like the Giants and the Cowboys are behind it, the Packers are behind it, all the teams the Eagles beat. And I think my biggest issue with it is like, no one has even really tried to perfect it other than the Eagles. The Bills and the Eagles are the only teams who ran it more than 5 times last year. So it's like, maybe try it first before you don't knock it before you try it. There's like one really funny clip going around of Jordan Love trying it on the Packers. And he like fucking stumbles forward and falls. And then they were like, from that day, the Packers were like, we need to ban this. But this is incredibly soft. I think this is super lame.
Are they going to start giving out participation trophies and everything? Are we going to put up banners if you sell out your stadium or something?
Yeah, they're going to give out awards for non-tush push first downs. That'll be a new stat because it's soft to get a first down.
DK, do you think this? I agree with Craig, and I agree that I hate that teams, frankly, who didn't try to even implement it, like teams tried, but they didn't actually try on offense. You don't count as trying if you try it twice and give up. So,
it's like they sat down to play a board game for the first time, lost, and then just wiped all the pieces off the board.
Yeah. And they're like, we're not playing Catan anymore.
Yeah.
DK, do you think this is soft too?
Oh, yeah, I definitely do. I think it's really fun that the Eagles have this really cool competitive advantage. And again, it's like Craig said, all the other teams could try this. All the other teams it's legal for them to continue to try this. So go ahead and do it. I just think it is funny that, I just feel like it's such a successful play that, and it's such a part of their identity that you have to keep it. I don't know. Especially because they're, the Super Bowl winners and everything. It's like, it feels like you're just like gunning for the team that, they won. It wasn't fair. So we got to eliminate one of their biggest advantages.
So can I read the official rule proposal? This is the language. It says no offensive player may immediately at the snap push or throw his body against a teammate who was lined up directly behind the snapper and received the snap to aid him in an attempt to gain yardage. So the issue is that you're getting pushed, right? It's not the QB sneak. It's pushing the QB sneaker. But what's dumb about so it's like you can push a player though. Like if a running back or a receiver is on the outside and gets caught up in a scrum, the offensive lineman can get behind that guy and push them. That's fine. But you then can't push a quarterback who snaps the ball because that's unfair and Jalen Hurts is really strong.
And to be clear, not to get into the nitty gritty of it, but it's weird because there was basically a rule clarification like almost 20 years ago that you can push guys. And no teams really understood the implications of that till the Eagles called the league office about it like a few years ago, and they figured all this out that it was legal. Because honestly, I think the only coach I've heard actually give a real take about this was Raheem Morris at the Combine, the Atlanta Falcons head coach. Because Raheem Morris was like, you know what? You shouldn't be able to push a player. Like, that's ridiculous. And I'm like, that's the only argument that I will accept is like, you know what? The premise of it is bullshit because the player safety thing is fake. I think the player safety argument of like, oh, someone's going to get hurt.
There's no data behind it.
Didn't
There's
think
no data.
no
it's all
players got
theoretical,
hurt?
projected data that's coming in the future. No, there hasn't been more injuries because of the tush push.
It's also, DK, you've been covering longer than me. What do coaches say about any other conversation about player safety? They're like, it's football. People can get hurt on any play. Get hurt crossing the street. Then the tush push, and they're like, well, we care about player safety. I'm like, no, you don't. You're upset that it's impossible to stop.
This reminds me a lot of in the early 2010s when the read option was becoming popular and coaches were like, yeah, like Tomlin was famously quoted as saying, like, we look forward to eliminating it or something. It's like 10 years later, it's still massive part of the game. It just reminds me of that where, you know, a few teams who were really good at the read option at the time were changing the way teams had to play defense. We're changing the game of football in a lot of ways. Obviously, the read option wasn't new, but it was coming back in vogue. And I just remember there was all these rule changes and rule proposals around that. There was like this rule where if a player was in run posture, you could hit him. Do you remember this with the quarterbacks?
Forgot about
run
it's just
posture.
Like, I don't know. It's just
run
silly
posture.
to me.
Triple threat position.
Yeah.
You know, shoot, pass, drive. Yeah.
I was like, but this is what football is all about. This is what coaching is all about. You adapt to the things that are happening in the league and you get better at defending them or you get better at doing them on offense and use little different, you know, wrinkles to make it more effective or try and change it. I don't know. This is like, I think this is just, it's kind of silly.
My other favorite argument that they made, so the one they used the player health, player safety thing as an excuse, and then they said game pace of play.
It's boring.
That it's slowing down the game, and they're basically just citing that one moment in the Washington-Philly playoff game, where they kept trying to tush push, and then Frankie Louvu kept Troy Polamaluing over the line to stop him, and there was like 4 straight penalties.
Palpable, unfair act.
Palpably unfair. Yeah, it took like 90 seconds
it's
off the clock.
palpably unfair.
This is palpably unfair.
It's great. Did you guys see the Sirianni quote? He was like, talking about this issue, he said, if Jonathan Gannon, Shane Steichen, and Kellen Moore don't vote for the tush push, I'm going to be pissed. Those guys are only, he said, this is what he said, they are in the head coach position right now because of that play.
Wow.
So all 3, I better have those 3 votes right there and the Eagles vote. I know we at least have 4.
That's sick.
He's whipping up votes. I love this.
He's whipping Frank Underwood over here. Dude, you never hear coaches talk like that either. You know what? I hate to say this. Sirianni's growing on me. I like him now.
Oh, 100%.
That's awesome.
A Sirianni type is great when they're winning. There's nobody better.
Dude, when they're winning, oh my God. Yeah, it's the torpedo bat of football. Oh my God.
Do you buy it makes the game more boring? Because there's a lot of like tush pushing inside the red zone. It is kind of boring, honestly, but that to me doesn't like move the needle enough to like.
That's where I was going to go with this, is that while I disagree with banning this play, I do think it's not that fun to watch because it is. But the problem, look, I think if every team had mastered it, maybe it would become less fun. But it's right now, because it's pretty much just the Eagles and kind of the Bills who can do it. It's still like this cool specialty thing where it's like, I don't know, it's like Shaquille O'Neal in the early 2000s. Like he was kind of the only guy doing that thing. And so if there was 32 Shaquille O'Neals, maybe it wouldn't have been as fun. But right now, I don't. It doesn't bother me.
You know what else
Shaq's
is boring?
a good comparison.
You know what else is boring to me? When they throw a pass out to the wing on a screen pass and the guy gets tackled after 1 yard.
This is like when they banned dunking. This is like when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was so good they banned dunking, and then like 3 years later brought it back.
He tried the hook shot.
They're just mad. They're just mad about it.
Mad.
They're just fucking mad. Don't put it on the internet. Don't put it in the newspaper that I'm mad. I'm gonna just read from Pro
Is it
Football
going to get
Talk.
passed?
Well, it needs
Dude,
24 it needs 24 out of 32 votes to get passed.
It's better not. I think it's so pathetic.
That's
if they
fucking
pass it.
embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing if they're, because you know why? And again, we don't have to linger on this much longer, but the last thing I want to say, if it's so goddamn impossible to stop, I cannot believe how few teams have taken seriously the prospect of doing it. Not like watching some tape and trying it. Do what the Eagles did. They brought in some Scottish rugby coach or whatever and tried it for years to perfect it, because when it's done perfectly, it's really hard to stop. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm so embarrassed for everyone involved.
Do you think Jalen Milroe will become a more popular prospect because they can just put him in on 4th and 1s and they can just tush push with him on any team?
I don't know how much he can squat. I don't know. We'll see. He's got to get in the gym.
Yeah, can he squat like 500?
Yeah. Honestly, Saquon should just do it.
Yeah.
Wait, other things for the owners' meetings. I'm going to just read a bunch of headlines, and if you want me to click on them, tell me, and if not, we'll get to the emails.
Okay. I like this.
Titans GM Mike Borgonzi, if you have a chance to draft a franchise quarterback, you don't pass on him.
Okay.
Stanford hiring Frank Reich as interim head coach for 2025. D'Amico, this one's funny. D'Amico Ryans denies the Texans offensive line room had become toxic.
Don't put it out there that I killed that man.
Yes. I feel like
if you had to
it
say
probably
it.
became toxic.
I think my shirt that said my offensive line isn't toxic is not explaining this enough to you.
Going back, do we think the Titans are bluffing a little bit? That quote seemed a little try hard to me. It seemed a little bit too on the nose. We're really excited about a franchise quarterback. You have to take him. We're so happy with this pick, and we love Cam Ward. I don't know.
I think in the from the angle that like everything that you hear right now is a lie and it's all smoke, Craig, like everyone agreeing that the Titans are going to take Cam Ward right now. Like that is basically everyone. I think Adam Schefter even said lock it in. That to me is like a little bit of a red flag where I'm like, okay, if everyone agrees on this thing.
Shefty doing the work for Borgons.
I think the Browns and Titans could have a deal. I don't think the Giants are involved. I think the Titans either want Carter and want to charge the Browns to swap for Ward. And I think put it this way. I think Cam Ward will be the first pick. I think either the Titans take him or the Browns move up one spot and take Cam Ward, or the Titans would take Abdul Carter. But yeah, I agree. It's weird that everyone just totally agrees.
The quote just seemed a little too obvious. It's like, everyone's life on Instagram is perfect. It's like, okay. Yeah. There's something up here about this post. Titans just on their Instagram stories like, we love Cam Ward. Another great day watching Cam Ward tape. It's like,
You guys hear about this Cam Ward guy?
Man, this guy's
the water cooler talk.
We are happy.
But yeah, you're right. Heifetz, actually, to be clear, Schefter said he's locked in as the number one pick, not necessarily to the Titans, I think.
Yeah. So, I think the Browns move up. And I think the
Giants. You think the Giants are out now because of Russ and Jameis?
I think when to me it's I don't know anything like all this anything can happen. But with that said, when you look at the Giants bringing back Tommy DeVito, Russell Wilson, and Jameis Winston, 3 quarterbacks in like 8 days, which again they're not going to take a rookie quarterback and bring 4 of those guys in. That's just not what teams do.
I don't know, maybe
but like you combine that with Myles Garrett saying the Browns told me their quarterback plan and I returned. Because I liked what I heard. And then you combine that with Schefter saying Cam Ward will be the first pick, but not saying the team. And I'm like, I feel like the Titans put out there that they're enamored with Cam Ward, and the Browns are going to trade. Like, look, I think the biggest comp to this is probably 7 years ago, forget the name, but it was Mitchell Trubisky in that 2017 NFL draft where the Niners had the second pick and the Bears had the third pick, and the Niners basically extorted the Bears for like a third rounder to move up, and they were never going to take Trubisky. And so the Bears paid a third rounder. I think it's going to be like that. The Browns are probably offering a somewhat high pick relatively to move up the one spot. And the Giants are like, you want us to beat that? No way. And I think that's kind of where it's at. So I think the Giants decided to just do Russell Wilson and Jameis, and the Browns are going to do something. Or they won't. I don't know. But then it's like, who's the Titans taking? And maybe the Titans want Rodgers. Maybe the Titans get Kirk Cousins. I don't really know. So we'll see. With that said, anything else on that, DK? Do you have any thoughts on that? Because that's actually my question is, who's the Titans quarterback if the Titans trade down to 2?
Yeah. Will Levis, maybe, I guess. I don't know.
Kirk? Yeah.
That actually would be the most surprising outcome of all the possible outcomes, that the Titans just go with Will Levis and no real competition for him. That would be shocking.
That seems unlikely to me based on the last 2 years of Will Levis.
I'm reading what Schefter said in this segment, and he mentioned even the Saints could come up and take it. It's like the idea of the Saints trading up to number 1 is now one of my favorite things.
That would be incredible. Also, those picks in the future. Oh my God. All right, let's get to some emails. And I think this is a good one to start with. And again, thank you to everyone emails at ringerfantasyfootball@gmail.com. This email is from Gideon.
Gid.
Dion. Who are the what you call him?
Gideon.
Gideon.
Okay.
Gideon Sanders.
It's like in Australia. Good day on. Okay. Who are the bet on your life prospects in this draft?
Ooh. I don't believe in this because even the generational can't miss prospects, it's like 50%.
It does feel like if you include health, it's like 2 out of 3 at best.
Wait, DK, who were the can't miss prospects? Who were the bet your life prospects like in each of the last 2 years for you?
I don't know. Was Caleb Williams counted in that? I feel like he was generational. I don't know if he was can't miss, but
There's
he was
a clear
definitely
distinction there.
He was much worse than everyone expected, I would say. Bijan was up there. It feels like he's definitely going to hit.
Was Jamar Chase can't miss?
Yes, Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Although
Chase,
people did talk themselves into Chase not being as good as he was because he didn't play that year, like the final year or whatever.
What about like Joe Alt? Was Joe Alt can't miss? Okay,
he was not can't miss.
I think Quentin Nelson was
Marvin Harrison.
Quentin Nelson. Marvin Harrison.
It's like I remember last year. So like Marvin Harrison, Caleb Williams last year too. I felt like we're both sort of the quote unquote generational players, and that didn't go great year one. I still believe in both of them, but if we were basing like this bet your life on it thing on year one, I would be very nervous about that.
I don't think there are any bet your life guys in this draft, and here's why. The bet your life guy to me is Travis Hunter, but Travis Hunter's not a given to me solely because it's complicated. Like if Travis Hunter really wants to play receiver and cornerback, and they're like, yeah, his team is like, yeah, we'll like let you do that, but they don't really believe it. Like I could see that going wrong where he's upset or someone like the development, like it's just complicated, right? Like it's just a complicated thing to make that work. I wouldn't bet my life that he could definitely be the first person to do this thing that hasn't been done in 100 years. And you take Travis Hunter out of it. I mean, I know Abdul Carter has I read too much of Drew Rosenhaus explaining Abdul Carter's foot to me in February.
You're giving me too much information here. Yeah.
I know way too much about the stress reaction to Abdul Carter's foot to put my life on the line. So I don't think there is anyone, DK.
You know, so I mean, the other person I would throw out, I had Abdul Carter written down just because he's my number one player in this draft. I think when you watch him, I'm like, the floor is just so high with this guy because he's so explosive, so flexible, so bendy. I just feel like there's going to be a role for him in the NFL. The other guy I wrote down is Ashton Genty, but I mean, you remember Trent Richardson? Like, I don't think Genty is going to turn out like Richardson, but man, the Browns traded up for Richardson at like number 2 or something like that. It's like he felt like a no miss or a can't miss prospect, and he just had no vision. He couldn't see where he's running.
I don't think a can't miss prospect can be in the Mountain West.
I mean, and there you go.
I think that's fair. As conferencist as that is to say, I think that's accurate.
Look, I went to a school in the Mountain West. You know,
I think that's accurate.
There are no can't miss. So I'm just going to go down my big board.
And also, can't miss prospect. Like potential means you ain't done shit yet. Like the whole point is that they all miss. Even Andrew Luck. Would you count Andrew Luck as a hit? Because it's like obviously he was good enough. That dude played 5 seasons basically,
and then he retired.
And I'm like, I know that's like there were injuries, but that's kind of the point. Even the guys who hit the ceiling.
I think let's take the potential for injuries out of this. Even just looking at my big board, Abdul Carter, I think is who I would bet the most on. And even he's not a sure thing. Travis Hunter, like everything you said, Ashton Genty, Ted McMillan, who people are all over the board on him. Will Campbell, is he a guard? Is he a tackle?
T-Rex.
Is he even the top tackle in this class? Mason Graham, another T-Rex guy. A white interior defensive lineman, which when was the last time one of those like turned out to be a superstar based on where he was picked? Cam Ward, Jalen Walker, Tweener, Armand Membu, same deal, like not as long as a normal tackle. Will Johnson coming off injuries, hasn't tested or anything in this process. There's just like huge question marks with all these guys.
So with that said, a related email. This one's
none.
From Ben.
I refuse.
Yeah,
I refuse to answer this question.
So this one's from Ben.
Benny.
In a draft class like this, where there's a few blue chip talents and the talent between like pick 10 and pick 40 are more similar, are the guys outside of the consensus top tier talents like Cam Ward, I don't know, he's included Cam Ward, but Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Will Campbell, Mason Graham, Ashton Genty, are you more willing to trade up for those top tier talents in this year's class than in other years because of the flattening from like 10 to 40?
No. I think.
All right,
actually,
cool. All right, let's make
you know what? Here,
dumb question, Ben.
I don't think. No. That's not a dumb question. I just don't think, based on everything we just said, you want to trade up for these guys. I'm kind of the opinion, and I've held this for a while. I don't know if I think I'm starting to soften on it a little bit, but like, don't trade a future first rounder for anything but a quarterback is kind of my philosophy in the draft. Just because those guys, it's so hard to live up to that and be that type of big impact player that where you're trading a future first, which could end up being the first overall pick, right? If it all goes wrong. But I will say, I think I heard, I can't remember who I heard say this. Maybe it's Daniel Jeremiah, that he thinks there's going to be a discount on trading up this year based on just the fact that there are not as many blue chip players in this draft. Like teams are just not going to be willing to shell out as much. You'd expect to trade into the first round, like you get an extra 25, 30% on top of it based on that pick in terms of like what we're looking with the Jimmy Johnson trade chart. There's like this is something that teams have used pretty closely over the years. There's a couple other trade charts.
It's not that
teams
different than like a fantasy football trade calculator.
Totally,
where you type in the pick, and they're like,
they just like, I don't want to look
It's like
stupid.
3,400 points, and you owe us this now.
That shit is the bane of my existence. Anytime you submit a trade request, if they see that their team is in the red and not the green on Yahoo, you're screwed.
Yeah,
Dude, they have to be in the green.
Teams and people just don't want to be viewed as getting, whatever, like getting worked on in a trade. And so I think, but this year in particular, just because of the lack of true blue chip talent at the top, that tax or whatever in the top 3 picks or whatever it is not going to be quite as much. So that being said, like if you really feel great about, Travis Hunter or whatever, you want to come up to 3 or 4 and get him if he's still there. I totally get that. And I don't think it's like a bad move necessarily. But I think because of all the question marks around all these guys, I probably would not be trading up unless it was like really discounted.
I think overall, I agree. Like you want more picks. Like more picks are good.
Like, I mean, that's just kind of how I've always looked at it. Is
more bites at the apple.
Exactly. More darts to throw at the dartboard. No one knows anything. And, unless it's a truly can't miss guy, which again, like we just said, there are really none of those in this class.
All right. This next email is from Mediocre Josh.
Joshy.
It's on Blue Sky. Shout out. Follow us on Blue Sky.
You're not mediocre.
Thanks for the skeet, Josh.
Josh says, I don't have a question, but please read the lyrics to Foxtrot Uniform by Charlie Kilo the Bloodhound on air. And I have not looked up the
Foxtrot
song,
Uniform Charlie Kilo.
What do any of those words
he's
mean?
Spelling fuck. He's spelling fuck in the like.
Oh, he is Foxtrot.
In the like whatever.
Charlie
What is
Kilo.
it called? The code for what? Like it's how pilots and stuff
Military.
communicate military, so you don't fuck up the letters.
Right.
Vulcanize the whoopee stick in the ham wallet. Cattle prod the oyster ditch with the lap rocket. Batter dip the cranny axe in the gut locker. Retrofit the pudding hatch. Ooh la la with the boink swatter.
Are these all sex euphemisms?
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah.
Heifetz just figured it out.
Yeah.
Well, those are pretty wordy.
That makes sense. Well, I was like, oyster ditch. Should I keep going or am I trapped now?
Say them again.
Wallet.
Now that I know, I want to hear them again.
Vulcanize. This is the beginning of the song. Vulcanize the whoopee stick in the ham wallet. Cattle prod the oyster ditch with the lap rocket. Oh, I see how
the oyster ditch? Jesus.
Batter dip the cranny axe in the gut locker. Retrofit the pudding hatch. Ooh la la with the boink swatter.
I got to say, batter dip is very
I don't like that at all. I don't like that one book. If I get you in the loop.
I like gut locker. I don't know if I've heard that one before.
Gut locker.
God damn. Why is this the third question we're reading today? What's happening? How did this sneak its way in here?
Oh my God.
I don't know. When I make a point
what is this apropos of? What is this referencing? Like, why is this about?
Because we were talking about this band the other day.
Oh, the Bloodhound?
Yeah.
No, and also because we read the lyrics to the My Dick guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Pressure wash the quiver bone. Oh,
Mickey Avalon would be proud of the Bloodhound gang.
He's got the words pork steeple in here, and I think that's going to be where I end it.
Batter.
All right, well, we did it. Okay. Lost my nerve.
Lap rocket.
All right, back to the draft. It's from 0 degrees Calvin.
Cal.
What do you call Calvin? You call him Cal?
I call him Calvin.
Okay.
We thought when we named him, we're like, yeah, he has all these different options. Cal, Vinny, Vin, all these other things.
You know,
is that where Vin comes from? No, it's Vincent.
No. I'm just saying, but Cal Vin, he could be like we just wanted to give him options if he wanted to change his name.
Right.
Vinny Kelly.
Yeah. DK, is he at an age now where for Halloween he could be Cal Naughton Jr. and you could be Ricky Bobby?
Yeah.
That'd be pretty sweet.
No, he's the baby Jesus.
Oh, he's baby Jesus.
Sweet.
He's too old for that now. But
6 pound, 8 ounce baby Jesus.
How did you not do that the first year he was born?
Damn. Wait, I was Ricky Bobby for Halloween last year.
He had a beard. I actually went to a dress up party this weekend, Craig, and there was 2 guys dressed up as Cal Naughton and Ricky Bobby. It's pretty good.
What dress up weekend in March are you going to?
It was just someone's birthday party.
Oh.
It was the theme was Spice Girls. And so everyone, like, I'd say like 70% of the people there just dressed up in like athletic gear at leisure, you know?
Yeah.
I was just wearing, like, Skippy and I both just wore Adidas tracksuits.
So everybody went as Sporty Spice.
And bucket hats. Yeah, pretty much.
Sporty Spice.
There was a few people that went as like Baby Spice. I think that was that one of them?
Baby Spice, Sporty Spice, Posh Spice.
Baby Spice had like the big ass boots and like the pigtails and everything. My God, that was such a weird era of the world to have grown up in.
I didn't know there was a Baby Spice.
Yeah, the
big like platform shoes. Anyway, it was fun.
All right. Well,
Sporty, Baby, Posh, Ginger, and Scary.
Oh, Ginger. How did we forget
Scary
Ginger
Spice? Who was Scary Spice?
Scary Spice was Mel B.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, actually, that was Calvin's question. Was which one was Scary Spice? That was his question.
Do you think they ever approached the Spice Girls for a Snow White remake?
So the Snow White remake bombed. Did they blame it on the actress? Even though who wants to go see? You know what? Whatever. I'll read Calvin's question.
Cal.
They are blaming it on the actress. Yeah, you're right.
How do you weigh drafting for need versus taking the best player available? Which I like this question because I'm so guilty of this too. Everyone does this, but I'm guilty of it where I'm like, you got to just take the best player available. Don't worry about like what you need in your team. And then we're like, well, I think they're going to take a lineman because they need one. So what actually was the way teams should be thinking about like need versus where does team need factor into taking players?
I mean, it depends. That's the hard part to answer this question. This is like the age-old question when it comes to the draft. If you're just going to take the best player available, where does Ashton Genty fit in? You know what I mean? Like, is he going to be the third pick in the draft because he's the third best player? I think most teams would say no because of the surplus value that you get from a player on a rookie contract relative to the guys being paid big money at those positions. So, like, for instance, Ashton Genty, if he's taken in the top 5 or whatever, he's probably going to be making top 10 money at the running back position. And that's not a great, that doesn't provide you a ton of value relative to the other positions. You know what I mean? So like if you take a receiver, you get a ton of value for the first 4 or 5 years of that player's career relative to what the other receivers in the NFL are making. That allows you to build a better roster around you. So that's like, in theory, why you have to take, and this is not even necessarily need, it's just value of certain players.
I think so. I should pull these numbers because I think that we always say, the value, and I'm like, we don't explain it well enough, or at least I feel like I don't. There's team need, there's best player available, but there's most valuable player available. And I think that's the thing that's important to remember is the game within the game is how can you, basically if the salary cap's $280 million, we want to build a $500 million team. Like that's the point.
Right.
Jalen Carter is worth like 10 times more than he's making. The Eagles have a $500 million roster and that's the goal. But
right.
They're paying him $250. So an example, Justin Herbert's first contract over the 4 or 5 years, or the 4-year deal, was $26 million total. Justin Herbert's second contract was $260 million. Right. Literally went from $26 million to $260 million. It was 10x. Mm-hmm. He was playing just as well on the first as he was on the second. And like all these are like the CeeDee Lamb's first contract was $14 million. His CeeDee Lamb's second contract was $140 million. Like Myles Garrett's first contract was $30 million. His next one was $130 million. And so that's over there. Hold that in your head. Saquon Barkley's first contract was for $31 million. Saquon Barkley's second contract was for $37 million. So that's to say, that's the reason, and I don't think we put it in those terms enough, but that's what we're talking about, is the value the Cowboys just got was they were getting CeeDee Lamb at $140 million level of play, and they were getting the $140 for $14 million with Dallas. Justin Herbert was a $260 million player playing for 26. And if you take Ashton Genty, this is why I don't think a team should take Ashton Genty, is that you can take Ashton Genty and he's not actually, if he hits his ceiling, he's not actually delivering you surplus value. So just take one in the third round who might be 80% as good, right? Because the defensive lineman you get in the top 10 is like going to be playing for you a tenth of the price of what they're worth if they hit.
It's the force multiplier theory or whatever, you know what I mean? Like having a Jamar Chase on a rookie contract is a force multiplier for the rest of your team. Having a Russell Wilson on a rookie contract, force multiplier for the rest of your team. It means you can spend so much more money on other players that are really important. And like you said, Heifetz, like if you draft Genty, he hits his ceiling. That's great because you have a good player. But and everything else being equal, like you want good players, but you have to be thinking where, like, how much extra surplus value am I going to be getting from this player if he hits? You know what I mean?
Yeah, not all needs are created equally, I would say. It's like if you need a quarterback, wide receiver, tackle, or edge rusher, you should probably address those. But if you need a safety or a linebacker or something, or a running back, you could probably still take the best player available over those positions because, like Heifetz said, the value of those positions is much lower financially in terms of where the upside is.
Also, to address this question, if we're not really answering the correct question here, like drafting for need versus best player available, like I guess that would assume like you don't really need a left tackle, so you take something else, even though you have the left tackle graded highest on your board. I personally believe you cannot have too many defensive linemen or offensive linemen. Like, take those guys and figure out the best 5 or the best 4, or whatever have you on whatever side of the ball. It does, like, there's no such thing as too much redundancy on an offensive line or a defensive line, to me personally. I think you could probably say the same of, maybe receiver. Like the more good receivers you have on a team, that's almost always going to be a good thing.
The guys who sign the biggest contracts in their second deal, those are probably the guys you should try to target because they're the most affordable for the first.
Don't pass
4
them
years.
Because you've already got a guy at some position. You know what
and
I
that's
mean?
the thing. And the flip side also, this is why you also want to be able to look ahead and see things coming. So, for example, a really annoying thing the Eagles did really well was when they lost that previous Super Bowl 2 years ago to the Chiefs. They needed 2 things. They needed edge rushers and they needed secondary. And one really annoying thing they did well was they attacked defense in the draft that had a ton of defensive linemen. They got Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. And they didn't really address the secondary. The next year had a ton of cornerbacks, and they went and got Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell, who, again, in a free market, probably are at this point north of $20 million a year. Quinion Mitchell might be worth $30 million a year if he keeps playing as well as he is. And like those guys are probably getting combined 10 or whatever. So you want your overall strategy to align with, is this a class that's deep for this? So this year is the defensive line class. It's a good year to get defensive linemen. So last year, it wasn't a good running back class in the draft. So Saquon and Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, all these guys did get contracts because it was a fallow year at running back. This year at running back, there's so many in the draft. And so what they do is teams use free agency to balance out the needs so they feel confident they can get something in the draft. So good teams are using free agency to make sure they're not super desperate to get something in the draft. That's why the Falcons drove me so crazy by signing Kirk Cousins, because they should have known they could get Michael Penix in a draft where you had the 8th pick and there were 6 quarterbacks in the top 12. Why are you signing Kirk Cousins? The odds you get a quarterback are so fucking high. Anyway, that's not the point.
Well, they fell in love with him later, I think, is the answer.
I know, which is just like, know what you're, whatever.
Did you? I heard that Sean Payton was talking about this. They didn't know that Bo Nix was going to be their guy until like a couple of weeks before the draft. Even at the combine, they're like, he didn't even have that good of a combine. We just fell in love with him later, which I think is wild.
Yeah, they do the visits. They do the private visits.
I think that's wild, but it is kind of what happens, I think.
That's the thing with the Borgonzi and the Titans and taking Cam Ward. I'm like, I think teams figure this stuff out in March and not February. So
it's because then you get all these coaches involved. Coaches aren't involved in the draft stuff for most of the year, and then late in the process they get involved. They have their agendas. They think, this is a guy we can really coach up. This guy fits perfect in our system or whatever. And I think grades change, opinions change, and decisions change.
Yeah. But the short answer is need is a tiebreaker and value is more than a tiebreaker. Like that's, I guess, the best way to say
So this question was specifically about the Patriots, and is Hunter and Carter too good to pass up for a team that needs an offensive line? And I would say yes. They are too good to pass up. Don't pass them up.
Also, those are 2 other premium positions that we just talked about.
Right.
That's an edge rusher and a crazy,
Corner.
never seen before receiver,
Or
cornerback
receiver.
combo.
Yeah. So I think in this particular question, I would absolutely take Hunter and Carter over Will Johnson or whoever you have as your
Will
top.
Campbell. Yeah.
You know what I was
Sorry,
Ben also emailed in, like, what is the team or player in the draft, like the fit you're most intrigued by? And I'm actually kind of intrigued if you're the Patriots at 4 and you kind of want Will Campbell and you do want an offensive line, which would make sense because they have Morgan Moses, right tackle, but they kind of need offensive linemen. Then we got a lot of defensive linemen. If you don't want Travis Hunter, you could trade down. I'm like, who's going to trade up? I would kind of love to see the Raiders move up from 6
Who
to
are they
4.
taking?
If the Raiders took Travis Hunter and put him with Pete Carroll as a cornerback, he could learn from Pete Carroll as a cornerback, and then Travis Hunter was the number 1 receiver in for the Raiders. I would kind of love that, and that's the fit. That would be a cool fit to me. I don't know.
That
if
would
you
be
guys,
cool.
I would love that. So that's another thing I think.
I personally think Hunter would be an awesome fit in New England because they need more receiving help, and they would probably play him on offense. Like, I think the thing one of the more interesting talking points in this draft right now is where Travis Hunter ends up landing, because if he lands with the Browns, for instance, I think people think more likely he's going to play on defense. If he lands with the Patriots, more likely he plays on offense. They already have Christian Gonzalez, a shutdown corner. I think they really need a receiver. They've just struck out on every receiver they've ever taken. The Patriots, I think, going back, for whatever reason, the Patriots have just been atrocious at evaluating receiver talent. But that would give them a quote unquote number one, a potential to be a number one guy in the future. Definitely add depth to their receiver core. They would also probably sprinkle him in on defense in certain sets, certain situations, third downs, things like that, red zone. I started out this draft season thinking he's a corner who will moonlight at receiver, and I'm like flipping it now. I want him to play receiver and moonlight at corner, however that works. And if you look at like what receivers are making, it's like it makes sense for him to want to be a receiver.
So I like Hunter to the Raiders. You like Hunter to the Patriots. Craig, is there a fit? It doesn't have to be Travis Hunter, but is there a fit with a player that you kind of want it to happen?
There's a couple receiver fits I want to see. Like I think the Panthers taking Ted McMillan would be really cool. I think that's kind of exactly what Bryce Young needs. It's like a big body that he can trust over the middle of the field and complete passes to. Year 2 with Dave Canales, it's like Ted McMillan is kind of getting those Mike Evans, T. Higgins comps. Canales was just with Mike Evans in Tampa. And the Panthers wide receiver situation right now is they have Xavier Legette going into his second year. They have Adam Thielen, who's 47 years old. They have Jalen Coker, who kind of popped as a rookie last year. And that's it. I mean, there is not a lot of like size or anything like that on the outside. So I think Tet for the Panthers would be awesome, even though they need a million things. And then the other guy I was kind of thinking about was for Baltimore, Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. I don't know. The two things, reading DK's draft guide, which everybody should check out.
NFLdraft.theringer.com.
Thank you.
NFLdraft.theringer.com. He pointed out that Emeka does two things really well. He's got great hands and he can block. And thinking about what the Ravens need is people who can catch the ball because they have Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers. Two people who, historically have had a little trouble holding onto the football. And the Ravens are a team who like to run the ball. So getting a wide receiver who can block and who has sure hands seems important to me. And outside of Zay Flowers, like they haven't really had a second guy ever in the Lamar Jackson era. So I would really like to see that.
I think that makes a lot of sense. He's good at after the catch too. He's just a really solid receiver all around. A couple of team fits that I think make a lot of sense and would, I think, be cool. A lot of people are giving Ashton Genty to the Raiders in terms of mock drafts and everything. But if they wait and take another position there in the second round, Quinshon Judkins from Ohio State, who was with Chip Kelly last year. I think Chip Kelly's going to want to run a really run-heavy offense with the Raiders this year. Like, I think that's why Pete Carroll brought him in. Is like philosophically they align in terms of like, let's be balanced, let's run the ball, let's have a ton of different run styles that we can do. And so, and then obviously Will Howard might maybe like a later round, like third or fourth round or whatever for the
quarterback out of Ohio State.
Right. For the Buckeyes. I think he would make a lot of sense to reunite with Chip Kelly. They could develop him that way.
We met Will Howard in Indianapolis on the street. It's so funny how easily it's like so funny how easily convinced I am of a player. I met him and he was very nice for like 8 seconds. And I'm like, Will Howard.
Yeah.
He was really nice. Looked us in the eyes, handshake. He has a lot going on. And he gave us the time of day. And we were like, wow, Will, nice to meet you. And we're like, he's going to make it.
He's like, take care, guys. Great to meet you. And I'm like, you're a first rounder now.
Sold. Yeah. Damn it. I'm in.
You son of a bitch. I'm in.
It doesn't take much.
The other thing I think that is fun, and this kind of goes against everything we were just talking about in terms of value and everything, but man, if the Bears do take Ashton Genty, I feel like that's a really fun pairing and a potentially good pairing, because I just trust Ben Johnson to get the most out of him, both as a runner and in the passing game. Genty I think is underrated as a pass catcher. Like, he didn't do a ton of it this last year because they were just running the rock so much, but he's a good pass catcher. I think he's the type of guy, Ben Johnson is the type of guy who could get him involved in the screen game, just be a valuable chip for them. Obviously, what we saw last year with Montgomery and Gibbs, obviously they had a much better offensive line. I think the Bears are looking to build their offensive line, and hopefully they do get that together. But I don't know. That just seems like a really fun pairing. And
well,
and a
you're
fun
also
mix.
dancing around it. Bears fans would freak out. I mean, that would be Walter Payton 2.0. Like
Right,
Ashton,
sure.
No, I'm not being hyperbolic. I mean, obviously, I don't know Ashton Genty's going to be Walter Payton. But if you're a Bears fan and you have Ashton Genty and Caleb Williams, I mean, that's like,
Yeah.
Look, should you take a running back in the first round? Everything we just talked about, I don't know. But if you're a Bears fan, holy shit, you get Ashton Genty in a redone offensive line. Like Bears fans are going to freak out.
And then we can say again for year 2 of Caleb Williams, hey, no second-year quarterback has ever had this good of a supporting cast. So
We
kind of can't fail.
But for real this time, we actually mean it now.
Mhm.
We were
Last
idiots
year-
last year.
Yeah, we didn't know what we were doing last year. We
No.
got kind of too distracted by the wide receivers, didn't really focus on the offensive line. This year, though,
Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson, who was unplayable
Yeah.
last year, but now he's in Chicago, so it's fixed.
It's going to be
Yeah.
fine.
Anyway,
Yeah. I just think that would be a lot of fun.
my only other fit I like on the running back thing is Travion Henderson to the Chiefs. I know our bit is that like just give running backs to the Chiefs, but I think that's over now because the Chiefs kind of ick.
In my experience, Chiefs fans were not happy with the idea of taking a running back in the first round in one of the deepest running back classes in recent history. But I do love that fit a lot because he's so good in the passing game. He could come in right away, be trusted as a pass protector, be really explosive in the offense, really explosive in the screen game. Yeah, it just makes a lot of sense.
Okay. All right. Moving on here.
they need to relax. It's the 30th pick of the first round.
Yeah, everyone calm down.
Dude, just take a good player.
Yeah. You want an interior defensive lineman you never heard of?
This one's from Nicholas.
Nicky.
If you guys could go to any of the games internationally, where would you go? The games, there's London, Brazil, Berlin, Madrid, and Dublin.
I would want to split the G with my pals in Dublin, baby. Also, they haven't announced it yet, but I think that game is going to be Steelers-Packers, which if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Steelers, that would be incredible.
Oh, my God. Yeah, we got to go to that.
Would they let him in?
To Ireland?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. DK, you're Irish, right? We can get in touch with your heritage. You can take us around.
Sure.
Should we do the It's Always Sunny episode where Charlie Kelly tries to find his dad?
I've heard Irish people love when you tell them that you're Irish.
Yeah.
You're an American person. They love that.
Yeah,
they think
it's
it's
their
the
favorite
coolest
thing.
They just want to hear all about your history and everything. That's
They love
usually
it.
what they
I was
they-
recently in a bar in Boston and we ordered Guinness and the waitress was from Ireland and she came and we were asking her, you know, is the difference, is the quality of Guinness really that different from Ireland to
I know the
anywhere in
answer.
America? And
Yeah.
she said, yes,
Yeah.
completely. They are different drinks. And I was like, okay, I got to go to Dublin then.
All right, we'll have to figure it out. I would do Brazil. My brother had an opportunity to go to Brazil last year for because his wife and work, and then he was like not going to go, and then he turned on an episode of Anthony Bourdain.
Oh yeah,
and the
parts
ep-
unknown.
and it's- yeah, and the episode literally starts like literally the opening narration is Anthony Bourdain being like, "Imagine having the chance to go to Brazil and not how stupid you would feel,
Idiot."
And my brother's like, "All right, I'll come to Brazil with you," and he was like, he had the best time, and I'm like, so I think I would do the Brazil game.
I don't know. This is tough. I think I've been to London a couple times, so maybe that wouldn't be the top of my list. I have been to Dublin, but I love Dublin and I love Ireland, so I definitely want to go to that.
You haven't been to Dublin, but you love Dublin.
No, I have been
Oh,
to
you have.
Dublin.
Okay.
I mean,
I've
I would
never-
go to Madrid.
I've never
Berlin,
been to
any-
Madrid because I think that would be really interesting. And I've heard like the food there is insane and good. Berlin, though, I think I might choose here.
I would go Brazil.
I was only
Madrid.
in Berlin for one day, and I honestly like it would just be cool to.
Well, that's not great planning from this show. If it's just Heifetz in Brazil, I'm in Dublin, and then
Yeah, we
DK's in Berlin.
probably should figure that
Well,
out.
I'm probably choosing Dublin here.
Yeah,
number one,
okay.
just because I want to tell the Irish people how I have Irish heritage and
Mhm.
just regale them with stories of my history.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm gonna. This Guinness tastes the same as the one I had in Los Angeles.
they just beat you.
I heard it's all about the poor.
Do they split the G in Ireland? If we have any Irish listeners, tell us if
Splitting
you know
the
what
G
that
is relatively new, at least in terms of like being an internet sensation.
It's probably a dumb American thing.
Watch someone email like my great grandfather split the G,
splitting the
and, like
G,
my father
yeah.
before him, and they're gonna freak out what Craig just said. All right, wait. This one's from Steve.
Stevie.
Steven,
If you're the Steelers general manager, how much would you be willing to offer San Francisco for Brock Purdy? If you're the 49ers, what would it take for you to admit that you're rebuilding and trade him?
so I was looking at kind of other comparable trade packages for quarterbacks in the last like 3-4 years. Russell Wilson went for 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and a 5th.
Jeez.
I would give up 3 firsts right now for Brock Purdy.
Would you
Is that-
really?
Yeah.
But you have to pay him $250 million a year immediately.
Yeah, I don't care. I would do that.
Give up 3 firsts.
I would not. I would
give him
look,
$50 million a year, $55 million a year.
Well, maybe hopefully
I would
it's not
hesitate
50.
at 2 firsts.
Maybe it's $43 million a year. You would? Here's my thinking. One, the Steelers are the most incompetent team in the league in that they're always 500, no matter how good or bad their roster is. So it's like these first round picks, when you get Brock Purdy, are like going to be in the early 20s. To me, not a big deal. You're not giving up top 5, top 10 picks. And you're getting a guy who I believe is competent and a floor raiser to the point where like we are now good for 4 to 5 years, which I haven't felt since like 2015 for the Steelers. So I would 100% give up 3 first round picks in the 20s for Brock Purdy. I would.
Okay.
As opposed to what? We're going to take Jackson Dart, 21. We're going to have Aaron Rodgers for a year. What the fuck? What else are we going to do?
If those are your only choices, I guess, sure.
I would not do that.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I
You're
would
wrong.
not endorse 3 first round picks for Brock Purdy. I said I'd give up 10 firsts for Mahomes. I got flack, and now I'm getting 3 firsts for Purdy. I mean,
like I say, I don't know if I would give up 2 firsts for Purdy.
I think that you could
easily.
I don't even,
I would
could
give
the
up 2 firsts for Brock
Could
Purdy.
the Niners get a first? Like if the Saints have the 9th pick.
Yeah,
I don't
they
think
could
the
give
Saints
him
would give the 9th pick for
Well,
Brock
9's
Purdy.
too high. Wouldn't you give up 22, pick 22 2 years in a row for Brock Purdy? I would easily.
Yeah. I would
Again-
give up the 21st pick this year for Brock Purdy. Sure.
Oh, I would do it twice over, 3 times over. We're underestimating
I
how
don't
nice
know
it
if
is
I
to have a
would.
quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know
would
who's
do
more insulted right now.
I would do the
Niners
same for
fans
Dak
or-
Prescott, too. I would trade 2 firsts for Dak Prescott right now.
Someone else. Yes. Wait. Let me find that.
I
Somebody
think
emailed in
that's
about Dak.
fine.
How is that fine? Dak Prescott's like 6 years older, injury riddled. Brock Purdy's like
I don't
young and
know.
good.
Shane says, as a Cowboys fan, I'm more hopeless than I've ever been with the hiring of Schottenheimer. I declared I'm taking a gap year from the team, but I'm still wondering the same question I asked you guys last year during the take purge. Why shouldn't the Cowboys just trade Dak Prescott, get whatever draft capital they can from him? I mean, the real answer to that's because they have to sell tickets, and if you trade Dak, you can't convince people to put butts in seats and watch the games.
Jerry Jones is not in the business of like starting over.
No, it's not a start over guy, but one season I'd rather have Dak than Purdy. I mean, that I feel pretty confident about that.
I guess I'm higher on Purdy than you guys. I think Purdy's really good. And I know the whole Shanahan thing is maybe like once he's separated from Shanahan, he'll turn back into a 7th round pick. But I think, I don't know, maybe the last year is clouding our judgment too much. Purdy was like, there were moments there where we were like, this guy is a top 5, top 7 quarterback in the league.
I'm seeing right now that the Browns were the first team to trade 3 firsts for a quarterback in 55 years, and that was the Deshaun Watson trade. And that was bad when we thought Watson.
Whatever,
was
2 firsts in a second, 2 firsts and 2/3. I would give
I
a
think
big
the
old
point is
package
the
up
Steelers
for
are
Brock
fucking
Purdy.
desperate. The Steelers have done an insane thing, and they're at the point where you need Aaron Rodgers, which
I
is a
just think
crazy place to put yourself.
3 years from now, when the Steelers have had 1 year of Aaron Rodgers that goes terribly, and then but we won 8 games, and then once again we have the 23rd pick, and then we take whatever 4th quarterback off the board in 2026, and then we have him for 2 years, and he sucks, and then it's 2028, and TJ Watt's off the team, and we're completely rebuilding. Would I then look back and go, man, I wish I spent a bunch of money and gave up a lot for Brock Purdy because maybe we could have gone 12-5 and been a 2 seed. I think in 2028, I will feel that way. So I might as well get ahead of it now.
I will say, I think this game is always so funny because when you say 2 firsts, you're like, no. And then you go back and look at any team's firsts. Steelers had a stretch of, okay, Troy Fautanu, Broderick Jones. Then you had Kenny Pickett, Najee Harris, Chase Claypool.
Yeah.
Then you say the names and you're kind of like,
Broderick
eh.
Jones, it's like
Chase Claypool was a first.
Well, he
last-
was the 32nd pick.
Yeah.
So I'm
Oh,
counting it. But he was,
I don't know.
because the Dolphins.
I'm
got
just like,
plenty.
I think 3 years from now, when whatever 3 picks we take in the first round, I will look back and be like, I wish I had Brock Purdy.
I think Craig's right about that, in that you shouldn't do it, but you would look back and be like, yeah, I kind of wish we had.
Would
But
I give up the
I get-
last 3 first round picks we had for a good quarterback right now? Immediately.
Yeah, but this
And-
is assuming that those are bad players.
Well, and those picks are even higher.
If those picks are bad players, I would trade 3 of them for Brock Purdy, of
That's
course.
the thing. What if they
What
have
is
a
the
good
hit
player?
rate? What is the hit rate of first round picks past 20?
So the real answer to this is
It's always 50-50.
it's
100%
50-50.
of the time.
The judgment is, and teams carry themselves, do you pick up the 5th year option in the first round contract? Which, just to remind people, all these draft picks get 4-year deals. It's uniform. It's in the collective bargaining agreement. First round picks, the team gets to add a 5th year option for a preset amount of money That's pretty decent chunk of change. Half of them get picked up. And I would say 2/3 of the guys, if everyone was healthy, might get picked up. But if you include injuries, there's about 16 guys that get, sometimes it's 13. Like sometimes it's like less than half the guys the team even wants the 5th year of the guy. So it is low. Even first round picks 5 years later, it's like usually like 14 dudes end up doing it. So to Craig's point, yeah, you never know.
Maybe I'm a little bit overzealous and desperate here, but
Maybe.
I'm
Listen
telling
to
you.
your NFL draft show where the draft is stupid and don't even worry about the picks.
I mean, yes, if it was 3 bad players, I would also trade 3 bad players.
Picks
for
are
Brock
useless.
Purdy.
Well, so the odds are it's going to be 1.5 good players, right? If it's 50-50 and three first rounds, you're going to get 1.5 good players. Would you give up 1.5 good players for Brock Purdy? I would.
All right. Sure.
Yeah. Honestly, fuck it. Whatever. I get it.
Life has no meaning. Eat Arby's. Fucking go for
here's
it.
the thing. You're wrong in the sense of like a logical approach to it. But having watched the Giants take like Kadarius Toney and Deontay Banks, and you look at these people and you're like, you might get cut if you were in a first round pick. I get what he's saying.
You're
Like the
you're
Bills
trading
with
away
Kyle Elam, and like, when
roster
you look
building.
at the people.
I feel like roster building theory or whatever, it's an atrocious trade. If you're trading 3 first round picks plus giving them $250 million, that's atrocious.
In theory, it's
That's like you're going to set your team back a decade.
Let me win the Super Bowl.
It's 10 years.
But also, it just might work.
I got an email from Glebes.
Glebes.
I don't want to send a whole email over, but my favorite kitchen gadget is my cherry pitter.
How's that
I
work?
was like, "What's a cherry? How do you pit it? You have a cherry?
Is this another
pitter?
Bloodhound Gang thing?
Oh, it's like a
Jesus.
garlic press, but for a cherry.
DK.
Great.
Is that like that's an all-time sexual innuendo you just made? Unless
Oh
you
wow, Christ! I
a
didn't-
cherry
oh, my
pitter?
God.
Was that the point or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh wait,
Sorry.
did this guy?
It was
get
just
me?
sitting right there.
Did I get
this
got?
is cool.
No, there's
Yeah.
a cherry pitter.
This is cool looking at it. It's just basically like it's almost like a garlic smasher, but it's it's like a thin rod that goes through the cherry.
So what
Seems
happens to the
$5
cherry?
at
It just has
Amazon.
like a huge hole in the middle of it.
So you guys didn't jump at thin rod that goes through the cherry. Thank God.
If you think about it, everything is sexual, Craig.
That is true.
If you really try.
A thin rod that pierces the pit of the cherry. This is cool though. I get this. It sucks eating a cherry with a pit.
Yeah.
You know?
It sucks. I'm not a big cherry guy.
I like dates
cherries.
a lot, and you work
Yeah,
your way
that's
around
fair.
the date.
Dates are good. I like dates now. So I
Yeah.
know I'm old.
Dates are very good for you.
That's good to know.
This is old people talk about dates.
Old
Yeah, they
people
do.
talk about various fruits they like.
This is like
Yeah.
the things that happen when you get old. You talk about dates. You start talking about real estate, like but by a square foot. You know what I mean? Like just things happen.
You start going to venues and looking around and being like, this must have cost a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just had a whole Twitter back and forth about bananas the other day. I mean,
What?
I'm old now. Yeah.
Someone agree with your take that bananas are the best fuel?
Yeah. The Titans beat reporter Easton Freeze was tweeting about how much of a secret superpower bananas are because they're the perfect food. They're like already prepackaged. They taste good. They're really good for you. All this great stuff. And I was like, yeah, but have you ever had 2 bananas? You can fucking conquer the world after 2 bananas. And then there was like me and 7 people going back and forth about how great bananas are as a source of energy.
That sounds like a really positive interaction on the internet.
Yeah, it was. I'm
Wow.
bringing Twitter back. I
Maybe
guess,
Twitter
with my
isn't
banana
toxic
conversation.
after all.
Yeah.
No. Fuck that. Go to Blue Sky. What's the most fun trade fantasy wise you could realistically see happening during the draft? During the draft.
Mm-hmm.
To which I kind of thought George Pickens to the Raiders. Like there's
Sure,
like Mike Tomlins, or Omar Khan, the GM of the Steelers, was asked, like, oh, well, DK Metcalf, Pickens. And he was like, well, you need multiple receivers. We like George. We like Calvin Austin. We like Roman Wilson. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think George Pickens is on this football team in 2026. And so maybe they keep Pickens this year, but I also think Pickens could totally get traded. And Pickens just feels like a Raider.
He is built to be a Raider.
Perfect Raider.
Perfect Raider. I saw, shouts out Bill Barnwell. I was reading his latest mock, and he thought about a Brandon Ayuk and the 11th pick to New England for 104, a little swap, basically 11 for 4 plus Brandon Ayuk to the Patriots. And that kind of wet my beak a little bit. That puts the Patriots
Multiple ACL injury boys.
Yeah, and that gives the Niners a chance. If the Niners are up to 4, Travis Hunter on the Niners is kind of fun.
God, please don't let this happen.
You know, the Niners have a history of those great corners. Robert Saleh back with the Niners. It's fun.
It's fun, but I don't like it. Mark Andrews to any other team? Buccaneers, maybe. Cowboys, maybe.
That's fun fantasy-wise for you?
Free up Isaiah Likely to be the superstar that he is.
I think TK just hates Mark Andrews.
I just hate that Mark Andrews is on the same team as Isaiah Likely, who's one of the best players in the NFL.
Well, it's funny because Mark Andrews has been one of like the best 3 tight ends in the NFL for 5 years.
You're right. I'm sick of him. Get rid of him.
I like that you hate him and it has nothing to do with the drop to lose the game versus the Bills.
Why do I hate him? I don't hate him. I just got the ick. That's all.
Oh, okay.
It's not hate. I just also love Isaiah Likely.
You really do.
I'm telling you, if Isaiah Likely is the starter on a team, he's catching 100 footballs. 100 footballs.
100 footballs. That sounded like a true NFL expert.
He's going to be
that's like a Glorious Bastards. He put up the fingers. He was just like, he's going to catch 100 footballs. This
seriously. That's so true.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Were you guys watching that?
Speaking of the Kings.
Were you guys watching that game last night? Quite a slam dunk there by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah. Man.
Oh, speaking of which, the torpedo bats with baseball this week was
hell yeah.
I don't know what this is. You guys have to fill me in. I was not on the internets during the weekend. What's a torpedo bat?
So the Yankees hired a physicist who designed a new bat. And basically, it's the same amount of wood on the bat. He just shaped the bat differently so that the barrel of the bat is bigger. And if you look at it, it looks kind of weird. It looks like a snake swallowed a mouse.
Bulbous.
Yeah.
Like a bulbous.
And there's and it's basically so when guys get jammed up, usually, it doesn't go well when you hit the ball, when it kind of below the barrel. But they basically extended the barrel down and kind of bloated it down closer towards the handle. So now these guys are essentially just like, there's just more sweet spot on the bat.
Right.
And everyone's all upset, but this still falls under the MLB regulations. It has to be like 2.61 inches in diameter or whatever. And it still is.
And to be clear, they did this. 7 players hit 9 home runs versus the Brewers.
They're tied with a record for 15 home runs in the first 3 games of the season.
Yes, they also set the record, I believe, for most home runs through any game in 3 innings ever with these.
And everyone's
bats.
mad, but once again, like the tush push, everybody can use this bat.
Yeah,
but the torpedo bats are going to catch on. I love the idea that the sweet spot is bigger. I was thinking about this recently. Like, there are 2 types of people in the world: people who know what the sweet spot feels like, and people that don't.
Phrasing.
It's like knowing what sex feels like, really, versus not.
Yeah.
Hitting a ball in the sweet spot, there's nothing like it. I don't know how you can explain it. Can you explain it? Do you know what it's like? Have either of you guys done that?
It's like a cherry pitter.
I played baseball my whole life. It's amazing.
So here's my question.
You guys didn't like that as much as I did. I think it's
well, I didn't know. I didn't know
if
you were once again going down the cherry pitter thing or not.
The cherry pitter.
Couldn't tell. Like,
I'm talking about the
head's
actual sweet spot on a baseball bat. When you hit a ball and it hits the sweet spot and it jumps off the bat like it was electrocuted. There's that for Heifetz right there. It's just there's no feeling like that hitting a ball in the sweet spot of the bat.
That's very true. It almost feels like nothing. Like it almost feels like you barely even hit the ball, and it's the exact opposite of when you get a stinger on like the edge of the bat where it like rattles your whole hand,
your whole body.
So here, you know what it feels like? It's kind of like when you vulcanize the whoopee stick,
totally
in the hand wallet, cattle prod the oyster ditch.
Mm-hmm.
With the lap
I'm sure that there's
you torpedo the cherry pitter. Yeah,
there's something that like that in golf. I'm sure too, right? Like if you're hitting a driver and you just like you barely feel it when you hit it.
You can tell by the sound. But here's my question though for this torpedo bat thing.
Mm-hmm.
How did it take this long to make the sweet spot bigger? What am I missing?
I know. Here's the idea: if you make the sweet spot bigger,
it's one of those things where if you're not following baseball that closely, and I love fantasy baseball and I do these things, but I'm not watching as many Yankees games as I used to.
And
so you just read it, and you're like, so some physicist was like, make the part you want to hit larger. It fits within the rules. And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? You could have done this the whole time?
This is insane.
How did this, like the Family Guy joke? How is nobody funding this?
The bat, those old yellow wiffle ball bats you used to play with as a kid, and they're just like, it looks like a giant blimp, essentially.
Yeah.
Like that's basically what the torpedo bats are now. I'm fully into this, right? This makes baseball so much more fun. This is like legal steroids.
Hell yes.
I think we'll see. It's funny because, like, I don't know, maybe the Yankees just crushed it off this guy, but it's kind of like the tush push where you're like, So you could just shove the guy forward? Like, what? How has no one done this for 100 years? Like, the idea that the bat could have just been shaped differently and it's legal is mind-blowing.
I just looked this up. There's a great quote from, I don't know if this is real. You guys can tell me if this is real. Brewers manager Pat Murphy on the Yankees Torpedo bats. My old ass will tell you this for sure. It ain't the wand, it's the magician. That hits. And it's also very sexual as well. All of this is sexual.
It ain't the wand, it's the magician.
I love everything
That's
about
how you
this.
use it.
It ain't the wand, it's the magician.
That sounds like a Tomlin quote.
That does sound like a Mike
Someone
Tomlin
get that
quote.
to Tomlin's stat.
Get that to him right now. I will say it's funny. Anthony Volpe, who's the shortstop for the Yankees, was asked about it. And again, they all hit home run. Again, the Yankees tied the franchise record for most home runs in a game. And also, Judge is not using it, though. Aaron Judge is not using it, even though he has like 4 home runs already. Volpe was like, yeah, to be honest, I think it's the placebo effect because it just kind of looks cooler.
Mhm.
And then we did well with it, so we think it works. And someone told me that the placebo effect works even if you know about it. So I think we're just kind of all vibing. He was like, I think it's all fake.
We're
but
just
like,
going to keep doing this.
But his actual answer was, I think 0.5% of an edge mentally at this level is like really makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Which I
mean,
actually think is actually kind of profound. But I also think it's funny that they're like, yeah, it probably is nothing, but we're going to keep hitting dingers.
I want this to be a thing. I want this to be a very important shift in the history of baseball. I sent you
Torpedo
guys
bat's sick.
I sent you
Great
guys a
name.
baseball clip the other day. Ichiro threw out the first pitch in Mariners opening day. Dude, 84 miles an hour. He's 51 and he weighs probably like 160. How fast do you think you can throw, Craig? You were a pitcher in high school.
Not in
Was?
high school. Not in high school. No.
Oh, in elementary school.
I was unfortunately too small.
Sorry.
I was actually
Craig was all state. He went.
I
No, I was
I
pitching
was-
in elementary school.
I'll have you fucking know that I was a really good pitcher when I was like 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
Go
How
And then
fast
on.
everybody,
could- how
and
fast
then
could you
everybody
throw?
hit puberty, and I didn't. And I was the only kid who didn't have hair under his arms freshman year of high
Oh,
school.
no.
And couldn't play baseball.
No cherry pitting.
So
Oh, no.
I was a real like Greg Maddux type, like painting corners. Speed was never my game.
Okay.
Okay,
So
how
is that
fast could I throw basketball or throw a baseball right now?
You can throw
I,
those
like-
baseballs real fast. 100 baseballs, probably.
Could you give me a month to kind of warm up and not throw my arm out of my shoulder and ruin my life?
You get 20 minutes to warm up.
20
What
minutes?
he's, well, that's what he's asking you, right?
Do you think you could break 80?
No.
I don't think so either.
I think I could throw maybe like mid 70s.
Ichiro threw an 84-mile-an-hour ball today.
High heat.
You think
Dude,
you could throw
Ichiro's
80s?
the best. My
I
point
mean,
was mainly just that
It was
Ichiro's
way out of the
best.
zone, but yeah.
Well, it was chid music, so theoretical chid music for the batter. He's setting the
It's chin
tone.
music for Victor Wembanyama only.
Yeah. Dan Wilson is the Mariners manager, and he caught the first pitch, and even he was like, and I think Ichiro did like how like when you're warming up the in between innings and stuff, the pitcher has like the signal for I'm throwing an off speed pitch, curveball or whatever versus like a fastball. Ichiro like went up there, he's like, this thing's coming in hot. And Dan Wilson even almost like didn't catch it because it was going so high and so fast.
Do you think a
great.
team should like maybe the A's should start moneyballing player height? Like they should only get guys who are like under 5'7".
The smallest strike zone.
Yes, just like 9 Jose Altuves.
Wait, have you guys seen the strike
They all
zone
hunch
rules?
over.
Yeah,
Dude,
I mean maybe
baseball
that
is
would
the-
work.
Have you guys seen the baseball rules now? It's so funny to learn the new baseball rules of like what the strike zone is. 'Cause it
Knees
used to
to,
just be
knees
like
to
you
nipples,
eyeball
right?
it. Well, no, it used to be, but now there's like because of the RoboUmp. Wait, let me find it. The RoboUmp dimensions. It's like a percentage, and it actually is bizarre. Like you read it because it used to be it just you eyeball what the strike zone is. The actual strike zone for real says Google Gemini.
Uh-oh.
So it's probably wrong. The strike zone is it's a rectangle. Thanks, Google Gemini. 17 inches wide, and it is from 27% of your height to 53.5% of the batter's height. That is the strike zone now.
53% and a half.
It is from 53.5% of your height
So-
to 27% of your height.
So is the RoboCop doing those like quick calculations every time somebody steps onto the plate?
I have no idea, but that's the official rule.
That's
Which
the
I think is
dumbest thing I've ever
crazy.
heard. But only, I mean, if it's a computer doing this, and every time somebody steps up to the plate, it does the calculations and it creates the strike zone based on their height, I guess. But I kind of like knees to nipples.
Yeah, knees to nipples. That's
easy.
America.
That's
what it's always been about.
We were built on knees and nipples, you know?
As my father before him. Okay.
I feel bad about the Brock Purdy thing now. You guys made me feel bad.
Couple other emails here we got to get to before we get out of here.
So wait, before we wrap, so we are pro torpedo bet.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah. It's called the torpedo bat. I think here's the thing. So the torpedo bat very much is the tush push of the NFL, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like the tush push is like, why did no one just push the quarterback
How did no one
forward
try
the whole
this
time?
before? I don't understand this.
How did no one try that? Is there a basketball version of like, how did no one try this?
You know what the football version is?
The tush push.
Deflategate.
Well, they were all
footballs that footballs that are softer.
Basketball?
I will say basketball. I have one that I
What if we just travel every time? That's the biggest.
That's actually
That's the biggest
yell at the
boomer.
refs.
The biggest boomer complaint I have about watching basketball nowadays, and I always send stuff to Craig about this. I'm just like, every time you see like a game-winning shot, I'm like, that's a travel.
Yeah.
Yes,
travel.
100%. Even the Jokic shot the other
Like
day.
the
The Jokic
fucking-
shot
There
that
was
was
a-
unbelievable.
They
I'm
took
like,
like 6 steps there.
There was
What
a
are we doing?
buzzer beater. I think it was the Colorado State Maryland game, and the buzzer beater that the guy in Maryland hit, he traveled.
dude, yeah.
I run to the comment section every time I see like a clip of like a buzzer beater in basketball, and every time the first one is like travel.
Dude, I
DK
used
will
to-
send me travel compilations on Instagram of like Russell Westbrook getting the ball out of the inbounds and just walking with it in his arms for like 4 steps
Dude, it's
before dribbling.
unbelievable.
And the
I
other
used-
player's like, what the fuck?
I had these texts with Kevin O'Connor a few years ago, or who's at Yahoo now. He used to cover the NBA for us. And I just had these texts that you could just scroll. And the whole thing was him trying to explain gather steps to me.
Yeah.
I was just like, but why? It's insane, man.
These are some of the best players in the world. How can they not know what to travel? Like, how
They're too
can
good to
Russell
dribble.
Westbrook not know that he needs to start dribbling?
And it's like sometimes they're so blatant. That's why the refs miss it, because it like this couldn't possibly be real life, what I'm witnessing right now.
Yeah, email us ringerfantasyfootball@gmail.com if you have issues with players. I think basketball teams, I want to attack substituting more. I think that I'm thinking about this more because of Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks. But like, I just keep thinking about, we have 2 problems. All these players are taking rest days. And I'm like, why when Steph Curry takes the day off, why doesn't he just play like the final 5 minutes of the game if it's close?
Because you're coming in cold.
Yeah.
But like he's Steph
It's
Curry.
dangerous.
But he's
It's
Steph
dangerous
Curry.
for your body to come in cold after not playing the entire game.
Yeah, he sits for 2 hours and then plays 5 minutes.
Unless
He
he's
can't
like riding
warm up.
an exercise bike. in
So
the
it's like
side or
close at
something.
halftime. He can't warm up.
So you basically want to have NBA relievers.
Yes. Literally,
Closers.
yes. NBA relievers. Or even more realistically, maybe it's like elite defenders. You know what? Whatever. It's a dumb idea. I'll read the stupid email from Ken.
I don't hate it.
It's not
I'm
that
willing to hear it out.
dumb. It's not that dumb, but I think you
It's
can
just like,
explain why.
What really fascinates me is that we have all these sports, and then there's hockey, where even the best players in the world are just on the ice for 90 seconds at a time in shifts. And I just think it's amazing to me that we don't quite have that in these other sports.
Yeah.
Of like a unit that plays together really well, but for small bursts of time. And I think we need that more. Like they, in football, they have a little more of it with defensive line sometimes. But I don't know. There's something.
I
there.
definitely, yeah.
But if players are good enough and capable enough to play the entire game, why would you want to be subbing them out a lot?
Because
Like, if
I
Steph
was
Curry
at a
can play
bachelor
40
party
minutes.
and we were playing basketball and we played for like an hour. And then our friend Brian came in, who's good. And then the combo of being good and having not played for the previous hour, he just fucking rocked us because he was like not tired.
everyone
at
else
all.
is so tired.
And I was like, they should do this in the NBA. I'm tired. I can't guard him.
But aren't the line changes because hockey's really fucking hard and tiring and taxing?
yes.
I don't
You
get
can't
that
be out
stuff.
there for
You're
more than
ice
10 minutes?
skating and playing a sport.
It's insane.
Like,
Really. It's crazy.
Some of the like
It's literally
cut-ups of just
war on
watching these
skates.
guys. Yeah. It's like, imagine if they played football on the ice. Some of the guys, in terms of like skating skill, is pretty hilarious and cool. Like it makes the whole Happy Gilmore thing like, wait, you're a hockey player? Like you can't even skate, like watching the guys go backwards where they like, they do like I can't explain it with their feet where it's like you're waving them back and forth to like get going backwards really fast and still be under control. Like some of the skating stuff they do is like actually super impressive. But the idea of just halfway through a play, somebody like shoots the puck to the other side and then everybody just goes to the sideline and a bunch of other guys jump on the court. Like it's just so weird to watch.
It's crazy.
Live.
It's insane.
Especially when you don't like really understand the sport that much.
I recently gathered, I now know the rules of icing. I get it now.
Good job.
Like Ted Lasso.
Good work.
Oh, fuck. I did in the jar. Shit.
Ha.
All right. The scene
Also,
from
I believe
Kenny.
Craig
up-
just talked about Steph.
No, Heifetz brought up Steph. Not
I
me.
did. I brought up Steph.
I'm
Trying to get Craig on board.
on my best behavior.
This email's from Kenny.
Ken.
Fellows, good day. I'm an executive chef in Wake Forest, North Carolina. The vast majority of my background is in New York City sushi restaurants. Craig and I were talking about sushi avocados the other day. Kenny says, we plow through cases of avocados every day.
Yeah.
The quarter method is correct. Unless you're doing something fucking stupid like subbing avocado halves for bread at 240 calories a pop because carbs are some noise. Anyway, you quarter that bad boy first, then you twist it gently and the pit just drops out. And if the peel is being bitchy, invert a soup spoon and run it between the flesh and the skin like Silence of the Lambs.
Okay, so quarter it, but while it's
Like
still together.
Silence of the Lambs. That was unnecessary. Christ.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the show was unnecessary today.
Yeah, that's I use the spoon.
That's good to know. We're at the cutting edge, Heifetz.
Yeah, I feel good about that. I think let's get out of here. Email us more at ringerfantasyfootball@gmail.com. Thank you, DK. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Kai. Thank you, Austin. Thank you, everyone, for emailing. And thank you to all the gyms who emailed in. I'll gather the gyms. We've heard from gyms.
the
who are
adult
young.
gyms.
The young gyms.
Yeah.
Young Sheldons, young gyms. Thank you, Lord.
Lauren.
Thank you, Simon and Garfunkel.
Hell yeah.
Sure.
You know, so Jackie was at an event in New York a few like at an old job of hers, and there was like, and it's a crazy place. It's like there's like a TV show that you guys know that's like filmed where she used to work, and they were having like this party, and she goes and she's like 24, and she like goes up and people at this cocktail party, whatever, and then she's like ends up looking out a window with this guy, and she's like, "Hi, I'm Jackie. Nice to meet you. Like I'm work here." And he's like, "Hi, how you doing?" "Yeah, I'm I'm like, okay." And he's like, "I'm Paul."
He didn't say his name.
Okay, weirdo. Paul. It was Paul Simon.
Did they have a conversation? That's incredible.
That's all she remembers from the conversation. Is him.
She was like,
Honestly,
so you're a musician, huh? That's
Plenty
cool.
gigs.
The balls on this guy. He's 83 years old. To think a 24-year-old would know what he looks like.
I'm Paul.
I respect it. I don't know what Paul Simon looks like. I don't think I
That's
could pick him
kind
out
of what
of
I
the lineup.
thought. I was
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't know Paul Simon like off the dome.
Also, with all due respect, I mean, when I introduce myself to people, I don't tell them my last name. I would say I'm Craig.
Right.
Well,
So
but
maybe-
it wasn't like, oh
But
yeah, Paul. Like, nice to continue.
He was like,
I'm
he's
Paul
like, you
with the-
know.
It was like
Paul.
I'm Paul. She was like,
He
okay.
big timed her.
cool.
Yeah,
And
I'm
she
looking
did
at
in
pictures
fact
of
know
Paul
who
Simon.
it was, correct? She knew it was
Later.
Paul Simon. Oh, she
found
didn't
out
know it was
later.
Paul Simon.
Not
Oh.
at the moment. It wasn't super.
When
clear.
you say the words Paul Simon, does that clock with her?
Oh, of
Like,
course.
does
Oh,
she-
Jackie knows
Okay.
20,000 times the music that I do. Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's fun. DK, do you listen to Paul Simon or Simon and Garfunkel ever?
I like Simon and Garfunkel a lot.
Graceland is like one of my all-time favorite albums.
Some great harmonies. Or what is
Right?
it? Yeah, when you're singing together, harmony. That's right.
Oh, I thought I had the Graceland album behind me. It's somewhere.
I thought Graceland was where Elvis lived. Is that the name of their album?
Yeah. It's not. It's just Paul Simon, not Simon and Garfunkel.
Do you think that he's mad that Graceland's like an Elvis thing now?
I think he made out all right. Better than Elvis.
Oh, no, he's still alive, Craig.
Elvis is still alive.
Yeah. He's living his best life.
Yeah. He looked like it.
God,
I don't
too
know
soon?
why I'm going after
Too soon?
Elvis. he died like 50 years ago.
Too soon. All right. Goodbye, everyone.